students of Far East College of Information Technology. So I'm your teacher in the subject Discipline and Ideas in the Social Science and Social Sciences. Okay, so this is our second lesson for the first quarter, and it entitled Social Science as the Study of Society. So back to the historical background of the growth of social sciences. So the development and progress of human knowledge, social sciences can be traced back to Greek civilization. So the most commonly or popular known person in this period is Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. So first, who is Socrates? So Socrates, he is the inventor of the so-called Socratic method, or the Elenchus, which remains one of the most commonly used approaches not only to answer the fundamental questions of philosophy but also serves as a tool for scientific research. So siya yung nag-encourage sa mga tao to answer the question of what is good and what is right, and what is bad and what is good. Okay, so in Western tradition or the society. Then he is also the teacher of Plato and Aristotle. Okay, so next is Plato. So Plato believes that conflicting interests of different parts of society can be harmonized. So the best rational and righteous political order which he proposes leads to a harmonious unity of society and allows each of its parts to flourish, but not at the expense of others. So yung pinaka, just like the teacher of Plato, so the best rational and righteous political order. When we say rational, kasi this is the right thinking or in a particular things. Okay, so next is Aristotle. So Aristotle, according to him, social science is the question of whether the data being considered, human affairs, or subject to causal determination in the same way as the other events, or if they are uniquely undetermined, being governed instead by humanly created system of rules and meaning. Aristotle. So there are a lot of beliefs that a philosophy is distinct from science that would have not developed if it remained under the wings of philosophy and theology. So for Aristotle, no, so yung daw study of society, so kasama yung culture and politics, which base of the social philosophy or political philosophy. So in return, the social and political philosophies were informed by theological reasoning grounded in revelation based on the Holy Bible. Diba? At the end of the Holy Bible, nandun yung revelation or the judgment day or the end of the world. Okay, so they can be summarized, the social science. Okay, so first is the science. Under the science is pure science and applied science. Then under the social science, they are law or linguistic and history, which we discussed in the previous lesson in the quarter 1. Then under the humanities, they are visual arts, performing arts, and religion. Then next, the unprecedented growth of science. So the scientific revolution, which began with Nicolaus Copernicus, refers to historical changes in thought and belief. So in Europe, roughly between 1550 and 1700, with the works of Sir Isaac Newton, which proposed universal laws of motion and mechanical model of the universe. So Sir Francis Bacon established the supremacy of reason over imagination. So sino ba yung mga under the scientific revolution era? Just like what I said, so first is Nicolaus Copernicus. So ano nga ba yung contribution ni Nicolaus Copernicus? So Nicolaus Copernicus was a Polish astronomer known as the father of modern astronomy. Diba when we say astronomy, this is the study of sun, earth, different uh, uh, system of a that our naked eyes can see, just like the Mercury, Jupiter, and the stars and moon. Okay, so then he was the first modern European scientist to propose the Earth and other planets revolve around the sun. So ano ba yung mga nakapalibot sa araw? Okay, or the heliocentric theory of the universe. So yun yung contribution ni Nicholas Copernicus. Next is, I know you already know Sir Isaac Newton. Work was the capstone in the scientific revolution, utilizing the advance made before him in mathematics, astronomy, and physics to derive a comprehensive understanding of the physical world. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabi nating physical world, so everything that we see or the tangible parts of the world. Okay, then together with Johannes Kepler, unisentiated his law of planetary motion in 1618. So that's the contribution of Sir Isaac Newton. Then the third scientific revolution era is Sir Francis Bacon. So his works are seen as developing the scientific method and remain influential through the scientific revolution. So Bacon has been called the father of empiricism or the empirist revolution. So he argued for the possibility of scientific knowledge based only upon inductive reasoning and careful observation of events in nature. So it is more on scientific or using scientific method and scientific revolution about empiricist person. And one of the empiricist person is John Locke also. Now, if you already read that in the 21st century. Then the fourth scientific revolution era is René Descartes. But if you want to read it in other way, Descartes. But if you search it in the Google, it is pronounced as René Descartes, silent S. Okay, so made the revolutionary discovery that he could solve problems in geometry by converting them into problems in algebra. So he shown that curves could be expressed in terms of x and y on a two-dimensions plane and hence as equation in algebra. So just like the algorithmic or the Pythagoras, no, gumagamit din siya ng ibang terms to express the curves of the word. Okay, so yun yung x and y. So that's the two-dimensional plane of the algebra equation. Okay, so that's the scientific revolution era. Then next is the secularization of learning and education. So it is commonly known Martin Luther that eroded the power of Roman Catholic Church. So Martin Luther is a Protestant movement. Okay, that modern period marked the growing triumph of scientific method over religious dogma and theological thinking. So ibig sabihin, he is one of the yung nag-aklas, no, sa movement or Protestant that eroded into the Roman Catholic Church. So parang marami siyang nakikita na mali dun sa religion ng mga Catholic. Then we're going to the different period that evolved in the social sciences. First is the Enlightenment period. When we say Enlightenment, or in Tagalog, ito yung parang kalinawan, no? Dito yung movement of the late 18th and 17th centuries that emphasized the individualism rather than tradition. Then it was heavily influenced by 17th century, which philosophers such as René Descartes, John Locke, Newton, and its prominent exponent include Kant. Kant, Goethe, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Adam Smith. So that's the most commonly people in the Enlightenment period that have different contribution in that period. Then next is the medieval period or the Middle Age. No, tinatawag din siyang Middle Age. So, in this period, universities relied mainly on the religious tradition and the Bible to explain the nature of universe. So, kung mapapansin nyo, the Bible, hindi lang naman siya nakafocus into humanity, but also to the universe or place of human being in the grand scheme of things. So, the modern university started to rely on science and its method to interpret the world. So, di ba, through the interpretation or through the study of science, there are a lot of proof no, kung paano ba nagsimula yung universe. Then, Max Weber, one of the leading figures in modern sociology, described this process as rationalization. So, that's the under the medieval period or the Middle Ages. Then, next is rationalization or rationalization, also known as making excuses. So, ito yung mga, kung gusto natin gawin yung isang bagay, di ba? Ang dami nating pwedeng gawin. Pero kapag ayaw natin gawin, we deny. O kaya, we make excuses. Tama? Is a defense mechanism in which controversial behavior or feelings are justified and explained in a seemingly rational or logical manner to avoid the true explanation and or made of conscious, tolerable, or even admirable and superior by plausible means. So once we think rationally, no, we make a better choice kung saan talaga yung pinaka-goal natin. Kaya nga in the picture in your module, as you can see, there are lot of directions that you can choose. But sometimes, di ba, if we don't want to that way, so we are a lot of excuses. So that's the being rationalized or rational thinking. Okay, next, and then in this lesson also, the rise of universities. No, dito din sila nag-evolve. Okay, so students are part of a great tradition. Consider the word you use like campus, tuition, classes, courses, lectures, faculty, students, administration. So, when we say universities kasi, di ba? So, lahat ng may kinalaman sa schools na alam ninyo, just like yung campus, tuition, classes, courses, lectures, faculty, students, administration, chancellor, dean, professor, sophomore, junior, senior, no, yung fee, assignments, laboratory, dormitory, the requirements and prerequisites, examination, text, grades, convocation, graduation, commencement, procession, diploma, alumni, association, donations, and so forth. So, marami. So, lahat ng may kinalaman sa education. So, yun yung tinatawag nating rise of the universities. So, ibig sabihin, they are all derived from Latin. No, lahat daw ng sinabi ni ma'am or na nakalagay dyan sa module nyo is derived from Latin. So, in the medieval origins. So, the organization of this university, its activities and traditions are continuations of a borrowed brawl that took place in Paris almost 800 years ago. So, yun yung the rise of the universities. Then, next, the dissolution of feudal social relations. So, with the intensification of commerce and trade in the 17th century, so many medieval guilds of workers, no, cooperate were dissolved and absorbed into the emerging factory system. So, dito naman sa dissolution of feudal relations, no, ito yung mga workers from cooperative. So, parang nagkaroon ng dissolve. So, ibig sabihin, nawala silang lahat, then napunta sila sa mga emerging or evolving factory system. So, diba? Just like in the history, diba? From being farmer, ganyan. So, ngayon, meron ng mga factory workers. Okay? Na pwede kang magtanim doon. At saka kung ano yung mga through science, diba? Nakakapag-build na tayo ng mga tree, ganyan, Or even, di ba, yung mga nakakabuo na ng mga different, for example, yung isang sisiw, no, ipinanganak siya ng ganito, so pwede siyang makasurvive through the use of science relations. Then, factory system is an unprecedented growth in the urban centers. Urban, so ito yung mga malalayo sa civilization, ganun, due to the trade and commerce. Attracted a lot of agricultural workers and mass of rural population to migrate to urban centers. Okay? So, trade and commerce. Pag sinabi nating trade, ito yung parang palitan or trading of goods and product and services, mga ganon. So, meron silang tinatawag na Great Silk Road. It connected the complex network of trade routes from Europe with Asia. So, ito yung parang nagsisilbing daanan or communication nila para makapag-trade ng different products or produkto ng isang bansa. No? So, it was a way to establish contact with the great civilization of China, India, and the Near East of Europe. So, trade, caravans, diplomatic missions, merchants, representative of religions, circles, dervishes, warriors, million people have passed on this road through time. Nothing frightening this brave traveler. So, ibig sabihin, going back in the trade of e-commerce before, no, wala pang ganung mga modern transportation. So, talagang nilalakbay pa nila yung road na yan, or the Great Silk Road, no? So, either difficult roads man yan, or waterless desert, So, kahit milya yung layo, no, either sasakay lang sila ng mga hayop, just like camel or horses, no, para makarating dun sa mga lugar na makakapag-trade sila. Okay? So, next is the rise of individuals. So, what is the rise of the individuals? So, who are the person or commonly person din na under sa social science? Okay? So, first is George Simmel. So, who is George Simmel? Studied in the philosophy and history of the University of Berlin in 1881. So, received the doctorate for his thesis of Kant's philosophy of matter, a part of which was subsequently published as The Nature of Matter according to Kant's physical analogy. So, ibig sabihin, Simmel is also a philosophy din siya, just like sina Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato. Nagkaroon siya ng doctorate, no? So, ibig sabihin, nakapagtapos siya ng doctorate for his thesis. No, ano ba yung thesis na yon? So, The Nature Master according of Kant's physical analogy. So, parang pinatunayan niya yung Kant's philosophy, no? Then, dito na nagkaroon ng birth of social science and response to the social turmoil of the modern period. So, sino ba yung mga sikat na sociologists? So, first is Auguste Comte, or better known as Auguste. Okay? So, was a French philosopher. So, he was the founder of discipline of sociology and the doctrine of positivism. So, he is someone or sometimes regarded as the first philosopher of science in the modern sense of the term. So, ibig sabihin, yung discipline of the sociology, just like in our first quarter lesson, the sociology, diba? Ito yung study of social interaction of every individual. So, it is more on ganun yung philosophy ni Auguste Comte. Next, it is girl, yan, si Harriet Martineau. Okay, so ano ba yung sa kanya? So, one of the earliest Western sociologists that born in 1802 in Norwich, England. So, sa kanya naman, more on economic theory and wrote prolifically about the relations between politics, economics, morals, and social life throughout her career. So her intellectual work was centered by a moral perspective that stemmed from her Unitarian faith. So she was fiercely critical of the inequality and injustice faced by girls and women. So it is more on women's power, just like yung pagiging slaves ng mga babae or wage slaves, no, yung sa pera, and the working of poor. So we are all known, kapag mahirap ka, so yung trabaho mo before is alipin or alila, no. So yun yung mga more on economic theory. Then next is Karl Marx. Yan, so Karl Marx, known as the social science historian and revolutionary. So most of the social thinker that emerged in 19th century. So marami din siyang mga philosophy about politics, no? And then the population of the world, may tinatawag din na Marxist theory, which he developed. Okay, so this very success, however, meant the original ideas of Marx so have often been modified and his meaning adapted to a great variety of political circumstance. So, ibig sabihin yung publications of many of his writings. So, marami na siyang contribution into social science that recently had opportunity to appreciate intellectual structure of Karl Marx. Okay. The next is Emil Durkheim. So, or you can read as Emily, but of course he is a boy, so Emil Durkheim. So the full name of Emil Durkheim is David Emil Durkheim, April 15, 1858. That day that he was born, and died in November 15, 1917. So he's known as French sociologist, social psychologist, and philosopher. So he formally established the academic discipline, and with Karl Marx and Max Weber. So he's commonly as the principal architect modern social science and father of sociology. So more of the philosophy niya is about interaction of humanity and individual in the society. Okay, so and the last is Max Weber. So of course, just like what I said, Karl Marx, Maximilian or Max, in short for Max Weber, okay, was a German sociologist, philosopher, jurist, and political economist whose ideas profoundly influenced the social theory and social research. Weber is often cited with Emil Durkheim and Karl Marx as among the three founders of sociology. So silang tatlo yung founders ng sociology, or more on the interaction of individuals in the society or community. After the sociologists, next is the anthropologists. So who are the first one under the anthropologists? So first is Franz Boas. Yuri Boas was a German-American anthropologist and a pioneer of modern anthropology who has been called the father of American anthropology. Okay, so if you are recalling, pag sinabi nating anthropologist, so this is the study or the branch of philosophy that study the human nature from past and present. Okay, so it is more on the movement of anthropological historicism. So that's the contribution of Franz Boas, the father of American anthropology. So next is Bronislaw Kasper Malinowski. So he was a Polish anthropologist, one of the most important 20th century anthropologists. So he has also been referred to as sociologist and ethnographer. So just like Franz Boas, he is most commonly on the experience of a human in a sociologist. Then next is Alfred Reginald Radcliffe Brown. So was an English social anthropologists who developed the theory of structural functionalism and adaptation. So, his understanding and views of social anthropology. So, ito yung mga point of view niya according sa mga social anthropology. So, how humanity or human being interacted. So, first, social anthropology is the theoretical natural science of human society. So, just like nature of science, diba, there is a big influence to the environment or nature of a human being, how they shape or mold through their human. Okay, so next is one may call its comparative sociology, or there will be a similarities, no, or you can compare. For example, the behavior of a person, you can compare it to the other. Then next is from 1990 onwards, sociological approach na nakilala sina Durkheim, Steinmetz, and Westermarck. Then the task of anthropology, so ito daw yung pinaka-work ng mga anthropologists, is simply to provide scientific appraisal of the situation which the administrator faces, not to advocate policies. So, hindi daw sila yung nagpapatupad ng mga policies, rules that the person may follow. So, sila lang yung taga-appraisal ng mga situation. So, according pa rin sa administrator. Okay, then suddenly, move away from Rivers and Haddon. So, regarded genealogies of native by rivers and failure. So, that's Alfred Reginald Radcliffe Brown. So, after the sociologists, anthropologists, then next, we are going to tackle the political science. So, the person who is commonly known for the political science is Walter Lippmann. So, he was an American writer, reporter, and political commentator, famous for being among the Filipino or the first to introduce the concept of the Cold War. Okay, so, coining the term of stereotype in the modern psychological meaning, and critiquing media and democracy in his newspaper, column, and several books. So, it is more on commonly writer or reporter. Okay, so then when we are talking of stereotypes, so these are the person who is shy being with other people or in other cultural, no? Then the colonial origin of the social science. First is the clamor for the colonization of social science. So imagine or created by the social scientists around the 18th century that carried a very European view of non-Western world. And social science has spread from the center of the peripheries of the world. Most of their observation, mainly from anthropology, were clothed in this cultural beliefs and attitudes of their fair European. So, ibig sabihin, nag-start yung decolonization of social science in the 18th century. No, nag-start ito sa European view and non-Western world, where Socrates and Plato, Aristotle was found the Western philosophy. Okay? Okay, next, the indigenization of social sciences in the Philippines. In the Philippines, social science after World War II, so dun parang nag-evolve or na-discover yung social science. So, simply perpetuated colonial knowledge production from American social science. So, many Filipino social scientists such as Virgilio Enriquez, a psychologist, and Sus Salazar, a historian, and Prospero Covar, an anthropologist, advocated for the indigenization of social sciences. So, yun yung most three popular social sciences in the Philippines or sociologists in the Philippines. So, first, we are going to know who is Antonio de Morga and what is the contribution to the social science in the Philippines. So, Antonio de Morga wrote the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, or in English, Events in the Philippines Islands. Okay, so it's a book written and published by Antonio de Morga and considered as one of the most important works on the early history of the Spanish colonization of the Philippines. Okay, Morga's purpose for writing Sucesos, Morga wrote the purpose for writing was he could chronicle. So the deeds achieved by our Spaniards is the discovery, conquest, and conversion of the Philippine Islands, as well as various fortunes that they have from time to time in the Greek kingdom and among the pagan. So it is more on the history of the Philippines, no, from the different islands in the Philippines. Then, social science in the era of globalization. So, ito na yung globally or world view. So, social science take the complete different forms in various cultural and historical contexts. But all of these forms of human acquisition of knowledge share general nature that lies in their exploration of the potential for innovation embodied given materials or culture. So, nag-evolve yung social science natin, di ba? So, through explore or exploration, through innovation, no, just like if there existing things or devices through innovation, so nagde-develop yung social science natin through the era of globalization. And we have also what called the feminist anthropology. From the words feminist anthropology, it is more on women. So, believe that failure of past research to treat the issue of women and gender or significant has led to a deficient understanding of the human experience. So, nagkakaroon ng an equality before between the men and women. Just like in the previous history, diba, before, the girl may only stay at home kasi di daw niya kaya magtrabaho, no, kaya sa bahay lang siya. And, with opposite to the men. And then it towards the language use within the discipline. So the word man daw is ambiguous and sometimes referring to the Homo sapiens as a whole, and sometimes in reference of males only, and sometimes in reference to both simultaneously. So kaya nagkaroon ng feminist anthropology. So it is more on women perception or perspective. So that's the end of our second lesson for the first quarter in the discipline and ideas of social science. Just like in our previous lesson, there will be a self-check after every discussion that you can find or see it in your module. So, and it is said in the direction that try to complete this statement about social science as the study of society. So, for example, the number one is I learned that social science in the era of globalization because, so you need to complete the statement.